moment caught on camera turns into chaos. When Jungkook's hand won't let go of Suga's, secrets, emotions, and danger unfold behind the flashing lights. "Don't let go," Suga whispered, but it wasn't meant to be heard. The roar of the crowd drowned everything else, yet the microphone caught it, soft, trembling, and desperate. Cameras flashed like lightning as the two stood center stage, hands locked together longer than anyone expected. Jungkook's jaw tightened, his knuckles pale against Suga's sleeve, as if he was holding on to something more than just skin. Something that was slipping away. The Seoul Dome vibrated with screams. At first, it was admiration. Asterisk. They're so close. Then confusion. Wait, is Jungkook shaking? Asterisk. The livestream didn't cut away fast enough. The world saw it all. Suga's eyes widening, Jungkook's lips moving silently as if pleading for something. The tension coiling in the air like an electric storm seconds before thunder. No one knew what had just happened. Not the fans. Not the staff. Not even the members watching from the shadows backstage. The encore lights faded, replaced by the dark hum of stage machinery. Suga's breathing slowed. Jungkook's hand still hadn't let go. For a moment, they were statues in a world gone silent. Just two silhouettes beneath the fading spotlight, their shadows tangled like secrets too heavy to hide. "Jungkook," Suga said quietly, his voice calm but sharp enough to cut through the chaos. "You're hurting me." Only then did Jungkook blink, as if waking from a trance. His hand released, trembling. A beat of silence followed, heavy, unspoken, and laced with something the cameras could never capture. Suga stepped back, eyes unreadable. Jungkook didn't move. The lights dimmed completely. The audience screamed for more, oblivious to the fracture that had just opened between two hearts once perfectly in sync. When the backstage door closed behind them, the noise died. The air was colder. Jungkook leaned against the wall, sweat dripping from his temple, chest heaving like he'd just escaped something unseen. Suga stood a few steps away, arms crossed, his face a mask of quiet control. "What happened out there?" Suga asked finally. Jungkook didn't answer. He stared at the floor, eyes unfocused, as though still hearing something echoing in his head. "Talk to me?" Suga pressed, the calm in his voice beginning to crack. "You froze. That wasn't just stage emotion. Jungkook swallowed hard. His voice broke. "I saw something." Suga frowned. "On stage. Behind you." The older man's expression darkened, disbelief flashing briefly before worry crept in. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "You mean someone?" Jungkook shook his head. "Not someone. Something. Look, forget it." But he couldn't. Even now, the image haunted the back of his mind. The reflection in the stage monitor, a flicker of a figure that wasn't supposed to be there, tall, faceless, watching. Suga studied him in silence, reading the tremor in Jungkook's tone, the distant look in his eyes. The leader in him wanted to comfort. The realist in him knew better. "Maybe it's the lights," he said softly. "Or exhaustion. You've been pushing yourself too hard." Jungkook exhaled shakily, forcing a laugh. "Yeah, maybe." But when Suga placed a hand on his shoulder, Jungkook flinched, so sharply that Suga froze. For a second, neither moved. Their eyes met. There was something in Jungkook's gaze that didn't belong to the stage, the rawness of fear, the glint of something he didn't dare name. Suga withdrew his hand slowly. "Get some rest," he murmured. "We'll talk tomorrow." But Jungkook didn't move. His hands clenched at his sides, jaw tight. "Hyung!" His voice cracked on the word. "If I tell you something, you have to believe me." Suga looked at him for a long moment. "Try me." Jungkook took a deep breath. The hallway light flickered above them. "This isn't the first time I've seen it." The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was loaded, stretching thin between them. Suga's face went still, eyes narrowing slightly. "You mean before?" Jungkook nodded. "Backstage. In Busan. Then again in Tokyo. Is always there. Watching. Every time I sing that song." The temperature seemed to drop. Suga's mind flashed back to rehearsals, to the same song where Jungkook would hesitate at the same line, the same point where his voice faltered slightly, almost imperceptibly. He'd always dismissed it as fatigue. But now, what song? Suga asked carefully, his voice barely above a whisper. Jungkook hesitated. His lips parted, then closed again. Asterisk shadow. Asterisk. The word fell between them like a stone in still water, sending invisible ripples through the air. Suga didn't respond. The name alone carried weight, a song born from darkness, from the deepest parts of their journey. Before either of them could say more, a crew member called from down the hallway. Suga, Jungkook, press is waiting. Suga turned toward the voice, masking his unease. We're coming. He glanced back at Jungkook, but the younger man was already gone, slipping into the maze of corridors. That night, the footage went viral. Fans slowed it frame by frame, analyzing the moment Jungkook's fingers refused to let go. The way Suga's expression shifted from confusion to something unreadable. Theories exploded online. Asterisk. They fought. It's emotional tension. Maybe it's part of the act. Asterisk, but those who looked closer noticed something else die in the background, on the giant LED screen behind them. During the exact second Jungkook froze, there was a shadow. A human shape, standing exactly where no one should have been. And for some reason, it was facing Jungkook. By morning, hashtags filled the internet. Hashtag Jungkook hand mystery, hashtag Suga whisper, hashtag the shadow on stage. Fans debated. Analysts replayed the video. The company said nothing. And somewhere in a dark studio across Seoul, Suga replayed the clip again and again, his fingers trembling slightly over the pause button. Because in one frame, for just a heartbeat, he saw it too. That same shadow, the one behind Jungkook, the one that shouldn't exist. And as the video froze on their clasped hands, Suga whispered to the empty room, "What the hell, did we just wake up?" Rain poured through the shattered glass, soaking the studio floor. The air reeked of ozone and fear. Jungkook could barely breathe beneath the console, his body trembling from shock and adrenaline. His pulse pounded so loudly it almost drowned out the muffled footsteps echoing across the room. The shadow moved closer, each step deliberate and heavy. Suga's hand gripped Jungkook's wrist tighter, his knuckles white. They could hear the man breathing slow, calm, almost mocking. "I told you, Yoongi," the voice said softly, almost regretful. "You weren't supposed to say anything." Suga slowly rose from his hiding place, his drenched hoodie clinging to him like a second skin. He met the man's gaze, jaw tight. "And yet, here you are, cleaning up the mess, right?" The man stepped forward into the faint blue light from the monitors. Jungkook's eyes widened when he saw who it was. "Bang PD Nim?" he whispered, disbelief breaking through his fear. The CEO of the company stood before them, his normally warm eyes unreadable in the dim glow. There was no trace of the familiar smile, the one fans adored. Instead, his expression was cold, sharp, and unyielding. "Jungkook," Bang said evenly, "you should have gone home hours ago." Jungkook stood now, shaking, his heart racing. "What's happening? Why are you doing this?" Suga stepped slightly in front of him. He knows Jungkook. He's known for years. Known what? Suga hesitated, his gaze flicking toward the blinking red light on the corner shelf. The hidden recorder still active, its small glow pulsing like a heartbeat. Bang's eyes followed the movement. In an instant, he lunged forward, smashing the recorder under his heel. The sound cracked through the room like a gunshot. "Enough," Bang said. "This ends tonight." Suga didn't flinch. "You can destroy the recording, but not the truth." "The truth?" Bang scoffed, voice sharp with disdain. "The truth is what people believe, Yoongi, and I own belief." Jungkook's stomach twisted. "You can't control everything," he said, his voice trembling but defiant. "You can't control us." Bang looked at him for a long moment, then laughed. A low, unsettling laugh that sent chills up Jungkook's spine. "You think you're free because you sing, dance, and smile for cameras? Your merchandise, Jungkook. You both are. The silence that followed was unbearable. The sound of rain hitting the broken window was the only thing keeping them from suffocating under the weight of that truth. Suga's voice broke it. Not anymore. Bang's expression hardened. You're forgetting your place. Suga took a step forward, close enough that their faces nearly touched. No, I finally remember it. Before Bang could respond, Suga grabbed Jungkook's hand and bolted toward the emergency exit. They ran through the dark corridor, their wet sneakers slapping against the polished floor. Alarms began to blare, security systems reacting to the breach. Red lights flashed, bathing everything in a sinister hue. Young, Jungkook shouted over the noise. Where are we going? Out, Suga said. And then, somewhere no one can find us. They burst through the back door into the storm. The cold wind hit them like knives, rain soaking their skin instantly. Jungkook gasped, adrenaline keeping him from collapsing. Behind them, they heard shouting, the sound of footsteps, security guards chasing them through the night. Suga didn't slow down. He turned into a narrow alley behind the company building, dragging Jungkook behind him. His movements were precise, practiced, as if he had prepared for this escape long before tonight. They finally stopped under a dim streetlight, both panting, water streaming down their faces. Suga leaned against the wall, his breath ragged, eyes burning with a mix of fear and fury. Jungkook looked at him, confusion and desperation written across his face. Hyung, what is this? Why are they after you? What did you do? Suga met his gaze, the streetlight glinting in his eyes like a dying star. I found out what they were doing with our music. The messages, the hidden codes in the tracks, they're not random. They're data. Data? Encrypted messages sent to private servers. Our lyrics aren't just art. They're tools for something else. Something political. Jungkook stared at him, rain dripping from his hair. That's insane. I thought so too, Suga said bitterly. Until I saw the proof. He reached into his soaked hoodie pocket and pulled out a small black USB. This is everything. Every hidden file. Every document they thought I wouldn't find. Jungkook's eyes widened. Hyung, if that's true. It's why they'll never let us walk away. Before Jungkook could reply, a loud crack echoed through the alley. A bullet struck the metal dumpster beside them, sending sparks flying. Jungkook screamed, instinctively ducking as another shot rang out. Run! Suga shouted, grabbing him again. They sprinted through the rain, weaving between parked cars and trash bins as bullets whizzed past. Jungkook's lungs burned. His mind spun. He couldn't believe this was real. The world he'd known, the bright lights, the screaming fans, the endless rehearsals, felt like a dream dissolving into a nightmare. When they finally reached a small bridge overlooking the river, Suga stopped. He turned to Jungkook, drenched and trembling. Hyung, we can't keep running, Jungkook said, voice breaking. They'll find us. Not if they think we're gone. What do you mean? Suga looked at the river, its black waters raging under the storm. We disappear. Tonight. Jungkook's eyes widened. You mean? Suga took off his hoodie, pressing the USB into Jungkook's shaking hands. If anything happens to me, find Namjoon. Tell him to release it. I'm not leaving you, Jungkook yelled, grabbing his arm. You said, don't leave me. Remember? You said it. Suga smiled faintly, the sadness in his eyes unbearable. And I meant it. But sometimes, saving someone means letting them go. Stop! Jungkook's voice cracked, raw with panic. You can't do this. Please. For a heartbeat, time stopped. The rain softened, the wind held its breath, and only their hearts seemed to move. Suga leaned close, his voice low. When they come, don't look back. Then he pushed Jungkook back, hard, just as headlights flashed across the bridge. Black cars skidding to a halt. Men in suits poured out, shouting orders. Suga climbed the railing. Youngie! Jungkook screamed, his voice tearing through the storm. Suga looked back one last time, rain tracing silver lines down his face. Don't let them own the truth. And then he jumped. The water swallowed him whole. Jungkook fell to his knees, screaming his name into the wind as the men surrounded him, guns raised, voices shouting commands he couldn't hear. His hands clutched the USB like it was his own heart. Lightning split the sky, and somewhere beneath that storm, in the dark river below, the truth began to move, alive, unstoppable, and ready to burn the world. The studio felt colder that morning. Too still, too sterile, as if the air itself had forgotten to breathe. Jungkook arrived first, a hood pulled low, sunglasses masking the sleepless exhaustion beneath his eyes. The memory of the message on Suga's car window clung to him like static. He'd scrubbed it with his sleeve that night, but the letters had reappeared faintly in the morning mist, like the glass itself remembered the touch. When Suga entered, the room tensed. He looked different. Paler, distant, his expression sharpened by something heavier than fatigue. The silence between them was thick until Jungkook finally broke it. "Did you sleep?" Suga didn't answer immediately. He dropped his bag on the table, eyes fixed on the mirror wall. "A few hours," he said eventually. "You?" Jungkook gave a hollow laugh. "You already know the answer." Suga turned to face him, something unreadable flickering in his eyes. "You still think it's something supernatural? You saw the message, didn't you?" Jungkook's tone was sharp. "You think Rain wrote that?" "I think someone's messing with us," Suga replied evenly. "Someone who wants to scare us or ruin us." Jungkook's jaw tightened. "Then why was your voice in that recording?" The question landed like a slap. Suga froze, his gaze cutting through the air like a blade. "You're saying I'm behind this?" "I'm saying I don't know what's real anymore." Jungkook shot back, stepping closer. "Every time we talk about this, something else happens. The footage vanishes. The lights flicker. Voices appear out of nowhere. And the one constant." He stopped himself. Suga's voice was quiet but cold. "Finish it. The one constant is you." The room went silent except for the low hum of the air conditioning. For a long moment, neither of them moved. Then Suga spoke, his tone low and measured. "You have no idea what you're saying." "I have every idea," Jungkook said. "You've been different since before that concert. Distant. Like you're hiding something." Suga's hands clenched, knuckles whitening. "You think I want this? You think I asked for whatever this is?" His voice cracked with anger, then steadied. "You think I don't wake up hearing that same voice whispering in my ear?" Jungkook faltered. The anger in Suga's tone wasn't defensive. It was fractured, raw. "You hear it too?" he asked, quieter now. Suga exhaled shakily and looked away. "Every night since that show. Same words. Sometimes it's your voice saying them. Sometimes mine." Jungkook's heart pounded. "It's like it's trying to get in," he whispered. "Like it wants to speak through us." Suga nodded once. "Barely. Or like it already is." The studio lights flickered again. Both men froze. A faint buzzing filled the air, the kind that comes before an electrical surge. Then the mirror wall rippled. Not a reflection, but a pulse. As if the surface itself were breathing, Jungkook stepped back. "Hyung!" Suga's gaze locked on the mirror. "Stay still." Their reflections blurred. Behind them, faintly at first, another shape began to emerge. A figure standing between their reflections, its features shifting like smoke. For one breathless second, it mimicked Jungkook's movements. Then it turned its head toward Suga's reflection. Suga's throat went dry. "Who are you?" he whispered. The reflection smiled. The lights cut out. Darkness swallowed the room. Jungkook's shout echoed, "Hyung!" and his hand reached out blindly until it found Suga's wrist. For a moment, they stood locked in the dark, only the sound of their breathing connecting them. Then, just as suddenly, the lights flickered back to life. The mirror was intact, empty. Their reflections were normal again. But there was a smear on the glass. 2 faint handprints, pressed from inside the reflection. Neither of them spoke for a long time. Later that day, they sat in Suga's apartment, curtains drawn tight. The walls were lined with instruments and notebooks, years of creation that suddenly felt like evidence. Jungkook paced the floor while Suga sat at the desk, scrolling through files on his laptop. You kept copies? Jungkook realized. Of the performance? Yeah. Suga didn't look up. Hidden offline, in case something like this happened. He opened a file. The video began to play, the concert footage from that night raw and unedited. Jungkook's stomach twisted as he watched himself on screen, gripping Suga's hand, his eyes wide, terrified. But now that he was looking closer, there was something else, something in the crowd. Pause it, Jungkook said. Suga did that in the audience, among thousands of fans holding light sticks. One figure stood completely still. No movement, no phone, no reaction. The face was blurred, but even through the distortion, it looked eerily familiar. Jungkook leaned closer. Zoom in. Suga hesitated. It'll just pixelate. Do it. He did. The image distorted further, but not into chaos. Into clarity. The blurred face began to form details, shapes, contours. It wasn't random noise. It was a pattern, a reflection, and the face staring back at them was Jungkook's. Jungkook recoiled. That's impossible. Suga finished for him, voice flat, but his eyes wide. You were on stage. Jungkook felt his chest tighten. Then who the hell is that? Before Suga could answer, his laptop speakers crackled. The video, still paused, emitted a faint sound, like a whisper buried under static. Slowly, it grew louder, until the words became clear. Don't let go. The same voice from before. But this time, layered beneath it, there was another deeper, darker, almost metallic. It murmured something else, faint but distinct. Trade. Suga slammed the laptop shut. The sound stopped. The room fell silent except for their uneven breathing. Trade what? Jungkook whispered. Suga rubbed his temples, the veins in his hands visible beneath pale skin. I don't know, but it's connected to us. Jungkook sank onto the couch, his body trembling. Why us? Why now? Suga's gaze shifted toward the corner of the room where an old full-length mirror leaned against the wall, covered with a dark cloth. He stared at it for a long moment. There's something I didn't tell you, he said quietly, about the recording session for Shadow. Jungkook looked up. What about it? Suga hesitated. The final take you hear in the album wasn't the one I recorded. Jungkook frowned. Then whose? Suga met his eyes, and for the first time Jungkook saw something close to fear in them. The day before the final mix, I found a new version of the track in my drive. Same vocals, but there was an extra line at the end. My voice saying, he swallowed hard, saying don't go. Jungkook stared at him. So this didn't start at the concert. Suga shook his head. No, it started in the studio, with that song. Thunder rolled outside, shaking the windows. Jungkook stood and walked toward the covered mirror, his reflection faintly visible beneath the dark fabric. What if it's not just sound? He said slowly. What if it's something recorded into the music itself? A message, curse, whatever it is. Suga's voice was barely above a whisper. Or someone. Jungkook turned to him. You mean? Suga's eyes flicked to the covered mirror again. What if it's one of us trying to get back? Jungkook's pulse spiked. Back from where? Suga stood, his voice dropping low. Wherever we left the rest of ourselves. The power went out. The apartment plunged into darkness. And from behind the mirror, something.